Hello and welcome to Events, Dear Boy, a new podcast for anyone involved in business events. If you're a conference producer, corporate event organiser or events agency, then we're here for you. We want to share the highs and the lows, the best practices and the horror stories. You can expect ideas and inspiration, maybe some laughs too.
And if you're a speaker at these events, then we're here for you too. We'll be talking about how you do it, what makes speakers nervous and how it feels when it all goes well or terribly.
My name is Catherine McNamara and I'm the marketing lead at the talent agency Pomona Partners. And I'm someone who has organised many business events in my working life. Alongside me is Pomona Partners founder and veteran of 1,000 speaking gigs, Tom Cheesewright.
Veteran of 1,000 speaking gigs and still slightly tired having just come back from China. Each episode we're going to be joined by a guest from the business event space, either an organiser or a speaker. We'll ask them to share their experiences, good and bad, and their tips for other people in their positions.
This week, I'm delighted to say that we're joined by Joseph Charlton. So, welcome, Joseph.
Hello.
So, go on, tell us a little bit about your role.
Yeah, cool. I'm Joe. I run a company called Planit, and I'm the founder. But also, I do all the client delivery and do all the client strategy and the different pieces in the operation day to day. We're an SME based out of Manchester, and we have two ways that we work. One, where you can use our platform to find any supplier, and two, Planit, which is we do end-to-end delivery, but in a scalable model. So you could get just delegate management, or you can get the full delivery service. And yeah, I've been doing it 10 plus years now, and it's been a journey. I'll say that, but it's fun and exciting.
It's the joy of being a founder, isn't it? You have to do a bit of everything.
Yeah, listen, they don't tell you about this. Everyone's like, oh my God, you can have your own business and it's going to be fab. And then all of a sudden, your marketing, your sales, your accounts, there's just rogue things. They don't tell you, if you're great at your job, it's very different from being great at your job to then being great at business, which I found, the biggest challenge, which it makes it exciting, I guess. You just never know what's going to happen.
Learning's the fun part. And what sort of events are you putting together now through Planit? Is it quite a variety, or is there a particular category you found yourself getting sucked into, particularly with the bit where you're doing the full end-to-end?
Yeah, so obviously we do international venue finds, national venue finds. That's for finding venue spaces that are unique for our clients. And then, the bit that you just mentioned about when we organise, specifically B2B, I'd say, corporate events, so exhibitions, conferences, activations. We've done stuff for Nestle, but it's internal pieces. So yeah, anything scale. My experience is 50 to 31,000 nationally, internationally.
Wow.
So I won't say no, basically. I shouldn't. You'll have people are like, we are this exact niche. I'm like, no, let's think about what is the problem. And what we specialize at Planit is we build team of experts specifically to the client's problem. Whereas, some agencies are so niche that they might deliver something for a client, but some of their bits that they don't have the expertise, but they might perhaps say they do. So we're a bit different in that we curate experts specifically for our clients. So we can do anything.
Nice.
That's interesting. So do you have kind of a team of associates that you work with alongside kind of an employed team, and you kind of build and you flex around the requirement?
Catherine, exactly that. I mean, most agencies now are a bit more transparent with consultants and freelancers. But the reality is a lot of people white label still. Whereas my whole specific is, how do I bring in the correct talent for your job? I've worked at loads of different agencies, I freelance at loads, and the transparency thing is a bit of a miss for me, whereas I'm very transparent. So I'm like, I brought this person in because they've literally just finished an amazing job at FIFA and they're going to be fantastic for you. This is how we're going to operate, blah, blah, blah. So we're just a bit more, we use it to our advantage. So yeah, we have a core team, and then we have contractors, or Planit planners, we call them, that come in specifically to deliver projects that we're doing. And we're getting great feedback from clients, but also we're supporting the people who are delivering the events by paying them effectively and well for what they're doing, rather than them getting shortchanged perhaps on, I used to deliver, I would say, large projects for another agency in London, and I used to work out my day rate, and then I'd see day rates of top people, and I'd be like, wait, now I understand why the agency is making such a bloody margin,
Yeah.
So mine's a bit different. I just want everyone to be, supported, have more money, and us deliver amazing experiences. That's kind of my vibe. My margin comes later. I remember I was telling Tom, he's like, "You still got a margin?" I'm like, "Yeah, kind of."
Given you're trying to do a bit of everything at the moment, like are there bits that you really love and things that you just sort of put off and avoid if you can, or hand over to other people?
Yeah, I guess it's funny. The a bit of everything makes you like sound like a master of none. I guess my specialty is building high performing teams. I've done that across two agencies, and I do that in freelance capacity. So I think that's how I can spot experts, pull them together, and project excellent delivery. So, but for me, it goes a step above. And what I love is strategy, creative strategy, looking at a problem and going, "Wait a minute, why have you done that for 5 years? Like." Has no one said, stop doing that, Tom? You know what I mean? Or Catherine, Howard, let's rethink about this. And I think for me, it's that getting to a problem or an objective and just flipping it on its head and saying, have you thought about this? Have you done this? Have you challenged this? Not in a way that, some clients hate consultants and they hate people like, oh, you should be doing that. That's better. Mine's more like a fun reframing of something that we've been doing. Can we do it in a different way and collaboratively come up with something? I'm a big believer in co-creation. So I love that. As you can see, get excited about it. The things that I may dodge, I mean, not in events, but I mean admin as a whole across business, my business. Like, I'm joking, but it's things like matching up invoices on my, Zero and stuff like that. The admin perhaps isn't at the top of my list, but that's the joy of you do everything, don't you, in a business now? Hopefully, when we grow, I'll have a wonderful person in accounts, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean that's I think the best moment of probably my personal business history. Forget about anything else I've done. It was outsourcing bookkeeping.
Oh, I cannot wait. We started, so we just won a really good client, and we're doing a lot of ticketed events. So we're taking in revenue on their behalf, and they're doing and the accounts, which is fantastic. Until you realise, oh, great, this month you've sold 200 tickets, and I'm like, I can't wait to do that account.
All that reconciliation.
Oh, listen,
Ooh.
but hey, budget reconciliation, there's nothing better. I love Excel, don't get me wrong, but it's just when there's just so many line items and you think, God help me. I'll do that on a Sunday morning, just, fresh mind, no one's contacting me.
So, Joseph, what event out of kind of everything that you've been involved with kind of to date,
Mm.
what's the one that you're most proud of and why?
That is such a good question. I mean, God, you could pull loads. Like, what makes it the one that sticks out the most? I guess for me, what I would say is, I'm from Newcastle, right? Didn't really think I'd leave Newcastle. My sister just left, but no one else did. And I just thought, I never thought I'd do like events. I was in hospitality to begin with, and moved to Manchester, did uni, became an event manager and stuff like that. And then there was a point in my career, in my first agency, I had a client that's international, and they wanted to do an event in Sydney, and I somehow got them to do an event in Sydney Opera House. We worked in our partnership. It was all about making them the gold tier in Australia. So we, big tech company, and we did it at Sydney Opera House. And I just remember getting there, and I'd planned it with one of my colleagues, and we was getting there, and I was stood in front of the Sydney Opera House, and we'd like built the first stage ever on the back sales stage that they'd done. It was only a small corporate event, and I just thought, I was gonna swear there, I won't. But I just thought, oh my God, like as if I'm from Newcastle. I never thought I'd be one, going to Australia. Two, I'm stood in front of the Opera House. And three, I'm holding I've got a photo of it where I'm holding a suit and I'm like just off to work at the Opera House. So I would say that would be my biggest, kind of pinch me moment. I think it's weird, like now when I've worked with people like Nestle or Google or like these different brands, like it's never really hit as much as using something like a staple like the Sydney Opera House, because obviously that's just
It's iconic,
I,
isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah.
And what an experience. I mean, it nearly killed me and the girl who was there. We probably should have had a team of about five, but it was an experience and a half.
What about at the other end of the spectrum? Have there been any event disasters?
I was laughing about this. I was trying to think of event disasters. I wouldn't say I've had any event disasters that I can own. Maybe there's been little hiccups, little things that have happened, but that's just the nature of events. How quick do you solve it? You don't let it affect you. I have witnessed other event disasters, and it's just the simple things like I used to work in a business where people would back-to-back plan. So I used to do, set shares, way to strategically place events. It's one of the big things I do for people now. Like, look at your portfolio. How do you place different events together? And then you like cut your AV down. You cut your AV costs down. You can renegotiate with the venue because you use it anyway. And we had set our first event up, brilliant, ran by us, and then someone else was doing the event following us, but they copied our menu, but the menu wasn't changed. So on the night of the event, we were like on a balcony watching the food go out on the second night. The first night was a rave success, and the second night, fish was being served, and we would never serve fish at an awards. And I just remember watching it unfold at the top of the balcony as the menu on the table was different to what was being served. People were starting to like question people, and you're just there in this moment of like watching the event manager who was leading it, sadly, like react in such a way that was just, it was a lot. I won't lie. So that would probably be the only thing where I could say a real disaster. But it's fine. I mean, instantly, what do you do? Right, everyone get on the floor, get to the table, speak to them, communicate. What's the dietaries? What do we need to change? Like, everything's fine. Nothing became any of it. Didn't even get mentioned anywhere. But it's just, I was going to say it happens. That shouldn't happen. But sometimes it happens.
What do you mean you don't like fish?
No, but have you ever tried? It's a funny thing. Like, I always find fish, when I started out, I've done like hundreds of awards, and fish is a funny thing to serve in a mass capacity. I would say like 400 plus. Like, it's changing a bit now, but I'm talking like a main fish dish that's got like seafood on. People are always just a bit, this has been full. Like, everyone's just a bit wary of it.
But yeah, I guess it's weird how it's become maybe it'll go back again, but it definitely has become more of a sort of niche food than it was when everyone used to have fish on a Friday. Well,
and a prawn cocktail to start.
Yeah, I mean, that's as far as you get. Prawn cocktail or smoked salmon, and you're thinking, how long's that smoked salmon been out? And it comes out, and when you get smoked salmon, it's starting to turn a bit, and it looks like it's gone that orange where it's a bit like leather. That's what I mean. Like, it's just people's reactions to fish that's been out a while. You just don't want it.
Probably wise. Probably wise.
So who's been your favourite speaker today? Because obviously lots of events, lots of people coming in. Anyone that particularly kind of stands out for you? And
we'll include hosts in that as well, given you've done a lot of awards.
Yeah, so I know a guy called Tom Cheese, right? He was... no, I think, Tom's on the call, obviously I can't say that. No, I think it's really interesting because I've seen so many different people speak, and I've seen so many different hosts, and I guess it's like, what's been your favourite speaker? Am I allowed to include people I've seen online or not? Is it just people I've witnessed?
Anything goes.
My biggest person, I would say, I love watching inspirational talks. I love people who inspire people. I think Brene Brown is, for me, my God, just what a woman. And she has this piece, and she talks about life in the arena. And I just think it's fascinating, this ideology of like, if you're in the arena, you've got people on the cheap sheets. That might be your family, it might be your friends, might be people at work who are like, giving you negative comments, energy, whatever that might be. And if you're in the arena, you shouldn't allow anyone that's not in the arena with you to comment on what you're doing. And you shouldn't take that as like verbatim. So like, know yourself and stuff like that. And for me, that resonated. And, as a SME person, it's so easy to take people's opinions in, isn't it? In any area of life, like your family saying, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. And I really liked that. And I thought as a talk, watching her talk about that, I thought it was quite inspiring. But I've got loads. Listen, I reel off like loads of people who've given me a quote and I've run with it.
Do you know what? We'll post a link to, for people that aren't familiar with Brene Brown, we'll post a link to her in the show notes and find a good one of her talks that's online. There must be a TED talk or something like that. I think we can post a link to.
I think that specifically, she's got some really good TED talks, and she's got some about emotional vulnerability. And I think, I'm an empathetic leader, and I really believe in nurture over like blame and stress and the rest of it. And I think she talks about emotional vulnerability, and that's her superpower. And I think if you're going to link one, I would definitely post that.
I'm the complete opposite, as Catherine will tell you.
I don't believe it, Tom.
Do you eat fish though, Tom?
I love fish.
Oh,
I
I
have
do
to
love
say,
fish.
I had some very nice crispy cod in Shanghai. What about tips for speakers? Like when you're booking someone to come and host something or come and speak, what tips would you give them to help them perform to their best to minimize your stress? Like what things do you want from speakers when they rock up or beforehand?
Do you know, it's so interesting. So I actually obviously used to book a load. I mean, you'll know, Tom. I used to work at a commercial agency, and we used to do like 80 awards a year, different conferences. So I used to book speakers all the time. And I've worked with like Jimmy Carr, Catherine Ryan. I've worked with some like big hitters in terms of comedy, and then also um, Professor Brian Cox and stuff like that. And the people who stood out for me, honestly, are the people who actually did some prep. And I can't believe it. Like I've actually, and I get it, you're a day rate and I work in the world now of day rates. You're only getting paid for that. But some people, when they're getting paid like 25 grand to turn up, you would hope that they have allowed themselves a day's prep for that 25. And people don't. And I think the difference for me is like, who are you actually going to speak to? Do you know your audience? Have you even done any research on the audience? Have you done any prep? Yes, your organizer should be sending you a cheat sheet, should be giving you the stuff if there's anything. And yes, you get you'll get a script and stuff like that. But I really liked working with Jimmy Carr. He wasn't very nice personally, but in terms of work ethic, he knew what would work, and he came in, gave structured feedback on the day. We did the rehearsals. He chopped bits out that he thought, nah, I'm losing this. And it was really good, and there was a co-collaboration to what he wanted to present and deliver well, and he nailed it. I also worked with I shouldn't say the other names, who were bad, but they came in, just did what they did, and it wasn't right for the audience, and it was terrible. So for me, I think the key I would say is, are you doing preparation? Are you prepped? Do you know who you're speaking to? And do you know the tone? Because you can't just do one thing for everyone because it's not going to resonate. It doesn't connect. Like you're there to connect as a speaker, and if you're not connecting to the audience, then what are you doing? Would be
I
my
don't think I've
feedback.
mentioned this on the podcast before, but I was at an event once where there was one of that tier of comedians, absolutely top tier. I won't name him, but British. And he rocked up. He was late. He'd forgotten his glasses, which gives you a clue as to who it might be. So he couldn't read anything that was put in front of him. He delivered a very short, like utterly unprepared, tailored little set, and just went down absolutely terribly. And he would have been, I strongly suspect he must have been more than 25k. He would have been a lot of money, and he was absolutely dreadful. And like you say, he didn't know who he was talking to. He had no idea why he was there or what he was doing. He was flustered, late, and I'm sure something terrible had gone wrong that day. But it just looked really, really poor, and it actually put me off that comedian. Full stop. I was really, really not impressed with them.
I do wonder as well sometimes if it might be comedians. I mean, normally I did stand up for like a year and a half. I've hosted a corporate awards, and I prepped for that because I thought I'd like die if I didn't. But I also think like people when they have sets, if they've got 5, 10, and it's the thing, okay, what do you want me to do at the start? Right, you want a 5-minute set? Brilliant, I can do a 5-minute set, no issues, I've got that. And so actually they don't feel they need to prep because in a comedian environment, you rock up on stage, you have 5 minutes, you already know, and if you're a good comedian, you should hear if a joke works, you should move your land strategically, that set needs to change, that joke didn't work. But I think in a speaking arrangement and an awards environment, that's different. It's not just a comedy gig. It's something a bit different.
Yeah, you got a very specific audience.
So what tips then, Joseph, do you give to other event organisers? Not to like give away the crown jewels, because you've obviously got a kind of format and a way that works.
The
However,
crown jewels. Ooh,
the
I
crown
like
jewels,
it.
yes. You may
I
have
don't
that
think
one if you will.
listen, I don't think it's that, I always push against this narrative of people think like events are, really really complex, really stressful, all these different things. And for me, I always like kind of debunk that a bit. I'm like, the simple things are you organized and can you put a project plan in place? Great. Can you follow the project plan? Fantastic. Can you communicate that to all of the stakeholders and actually communicate it effectively so people do what they should do on time? If so, fantastic. anything goes wrong or comes in between, then you've got the space and the mentality to do it. And that's really basic. I mean, when you're doing huge productions, I was involved in a huge rebrand for a business on a global scale, and that had like so many people involved, but the intricacies are things being done when they should be done. And then just communication. I think if you can communicate effectively with anyone, like a client, stakeholder, your team, staff, generally, and you're doing it in a nice way that's like encouraging people and you feel like uplifted from it, even if it's a negative, like you're still like giving it a good amount of attention, then you can't really go wrong. The only thing I would say is like when people have things they might want to hide is like their creative process. Like creativity is next level, like how people approach their strategy, creative, whatever those methods are. Yeah, okay, that's got a bit of uniqueness to it, but actual fundamental event logistics, event delivery, in my opinion, it's not that hard. And when people say it's really stressful, I'm like, okay, can you talk to me about how you're doing it? What's the, why is it stressful? Oh, well, it's actually because I'm doing 6 events in 2 months. I don't have enough team members. Okay, so do you want to speak to someone about getting more help and team? Do you know what I mean? I know I do this thing. It's like I do quite coaching thing. Like, let's talk about why it's stressful. What's happening? Let's just break that apart. Move that here. Let's do this. And then a lot of it, it's not the work. It's well, the client hasn't done this. They've not sent this. Okay, did the client know that they need this? Did they have this? Did they, you know what I mean? It's like actually when you take it away, events isn't that stressful. Communication around it, I would say.
I think you need a psychiatrist's couch in your office, Joe.
I know.
Inviting other event organisers in.
You're really calming me down for a Monday morning. Wow.
Do you know what though, Catherine? Tom, I used to get so stressed. You speak to the first team. Will laugh at me. I saw them the other week at Holly Moore's conference, and I used to get in my skin. I used to get like so psoriasis because I used to get so stressed with it all. And then I just started to realize, whoa, this is too much. Like let's break it down. So I'm only able to do it now and ask the questions because I was that person. I was in an environment where I was doing so much, too much had been asked of me and all the rest of it. But when I stripped away those different bits, then I understood actually, okay, there's a route here. And that's why I always challenge everyone when they're like, this is the most stressful industry. I'm like, let's not ruin it for everyone. That's just, do you know what I mean? Like, because no one wants to join the industry because everyone's like, events is so rubbish. I'm like, is it? I'm like, well, why are you in it? It really, yeah. I could go on that for days. I won't. I'll stop there.
And you know what? That is just an amazing place to wrap up just what we've been discussing today. And thank you so much for coming on, Joseph. That's been fantastic. And thank you too for listening and watching. We hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, please leave a review, like and subscribe. And most importantly, share the podcast with your colleagues and peers, whether they're fellow speakers or organisers. And we'll be back soon with another episode. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.